Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. If you're one of my original friends, welcome back. Always glad to have you here. My name is Katie and I've lost over 100 pounds this year. I pretty much overhauled my whole life, my whole lifestyle, my diet and everything, and I've also done it with the help of a GLP-1. I've been on Zepbound since February. And what I want to talk to you about today is it's actually kind of a serious topic. I know I look silly with my Santa hat. I just want to keep it lighthearted and fun, but it is a serious topic and it's something that most of us are going to be facing soon. So I don't mean to alienate anyone with my Santa hat. I know that not everybody celebrates Christmas and believes in that. I do happen to celebrate Christmas, so I'm wearing my festive holiday spirit gear. But I don't care what religion you are, or if you're no religion at all, you are welcome here. And I do think that this topic will be relevant to everyone, not just people looking forward to Christmas and things like that. I also have my favorite holiday shirt on that I never thought I would be able to fit in again. So I'm super excited to have my Grinch shirt on today and it fits me. So what I want to talk about today is about navigating the holiday season without any guilt or any remorse around food. In our society, holidays in general seem to focus and almost be built upon food and drinks as part of, and almost in some cases the most important part, or it seems like the most important part of the holiday. And it's almost impossible to kind of separate the holiday from the food traditions and things like that. We're definitely so hyper focused about food traditions and things like that over the holidays, and it's really hard, especially if you have struggled with your weight like I have for my entire life. It is really difficult to know what to do and know how to do it and to try to do what you think is right, and still, getting through the holidays and feeling good about it. I think it's really tough to do, especially for those of us who've struggled with our weight. So I want to talk about some advice that I have from 25 years of experience of going through holidays as an overweight person or a person struggling with my weight. I want to start by saying that I want to define guilt and remorse. I think that guilt is when we act against what we think we should do. Remorse is when we act against what we really want to do for ourselves. So a lot of us feel guilt over the holidays because we think that we should act a certain way, we should eat a certain way, we should stay on our diet, and we should resist all temptation. We have all these shoulds that we think that we should do over the holidays, and most of us do not end up at the end of the holidays, without doing some of the things that we think we shouldn't do. But then there's the other side of the coin, and I think sometimes there's remorse when you do something that actually goes against what you really want deep down. And that could be either way. I mean, that could be, indulging when you didn't think you should indulge, or you really didn't want to indulge, but you did anyway. Or maybe that's not indulging, but then, missing out and feeling like you missed out on the holiday and feeling remorse over that. So I think that we can change the narrative here. We can make our own decisions. We have free will. And in my opinion, we should just take guilt out of the equation entirely. I want all of us here to agree not to feel guilty no matter what you decide to do over the holidays. There's no guilt. There's no right and wrong. There's no should or whatever. Let it go, okay? Somebody made that up. There's nothing that you should do or shouldn't do. This is your life, and you get to choose what you want to do and use that as your guidepost. I suggest that you take some time and sit down and think about, what do you really want out of the holidays? Do you want to just relax and enjoy the holidays and just have a fun time between now and the end of the year and worry about your diet and your health and stuff like that at the beginning of the year next year? Do you want to really keep losing weight? Have you worked so hard this year to lose weight and you've had to scratch out for every pound that you've lost and every ounce, and you just don't want to, you don't want to backtrack any. You want to keep moving forward towards your goals, or at least maintain what you've lost. Or maybe there's something new. Maybe there's another direction that you can try. But again, I want to really drive home the fact that I don't think that there is a right or wrong answer. You have to look within yourself and decide what you really want to do. Get clear on it. Get in touch with what you really want. But you also have to have realistic expectations for what's going to happen and what the outcome is going to be based on your decisions. And you have to feel out for yourself. Is that going to feel good? Is that not going to feel good? Right? You could wake up on January 1st, 10 pounds heavier, and you step on that scale and you don't care at all because you had a blast, you had fun, you went to parties, you celebrated with family, you had an amazing time, and you may have no guilt and no regrets. You might step on that scale 2 pounds lighter than you were before the holidays, and you might feel tons of remorse because you had to say no to your favorite Aunt Betty had made the dessert that's your special treat, and she made it special for you and you didn't eat it because, it wasn't on your plan. Or, you went to parties, but you felt like the odd one out because you were not having a good time. Maybe you weren't drinking, maybe you weren't eating what they had, and you might get through the whole holiday season having lost some weight, but still full of remorse because you didn't have fun and you didn't enjoy yourself. So get clear on what happens, in any of these scenarios. Imagine yourself on January 1st, stepping on that scale. Imagine you losing weight, imagine you gaining weight, imagine the possible scenarios and see, how am I going to feel? How would I feel in each of these cases? And try to get in touch with what feels right, what resonates with you. So, okay, so you have a choice. You can relax, you could enjoy yourself, and not worry about it. You're not going to count calories. You're going to eat whatever looks good to you and whatever. If you're on a GLP-1, it might help you to do this in a less self-destructive way than it might have been. In years past, I know that I went hog wild sometimes and I had no self-control and I had no stop button. I just ate and ate and ate everything that was in sight. And I couldn't stop myself, and I felt sick half the time, even without a GLP-1. I would have indigestion and feel sick because I ate too much or drank too much. None of my clothes fit. I was feeling, unhealthy before. But on a GLP-1, especially if it's working well for you, that might not be the case. You might be able to have a little bit of anything that you want without stressing about it, without tracking it, without weighing it or measuring it, and still, not feel bad. I mean, the GLP-1, if it's working really well for you, especially, might really help you to relax and enjoy without going off the rails or going totally, overboard like you might have in years past. So that's one benefit here of those of us who have access to the GLP-1. Again, you might not be able to eat as much. You might only have a few bites, and it really helps rein it in. So the pros of this approach would be the holiday might feel a lot less stressful for you. You don't have to plan every bite. Everything might feel more fun and more spontaneous and more manageable. It's might be a lot less stressful for you to attend events when you don't have to worry about what they're serving and if it fits in your plan, and trying to predict what it's going to be and plan out stuff like that. Some lucky people might even stay the same weight, without tracking or weighing or measuring all of their food. Some lucky people might even lose a couple pounds. Sometimes we've been so hardcore on our journeys that we've been strict, and your body can read that as a stress situation. The low calories, it's a perception of threat. It's a perception of scarcity. And sometimes people stop losing weight no matter how strict they are, or maybe even especially because they're being super strict, because their body perceives that as a threat. And sometimes when you relax and you just have a fun time and you cut loose a little bit and you eat a few extra calories than you normally would eat, suddenly your body is like, oh, okay, actually there's food. We don't have to worry. We're not in threat mode. We can kind of like relax. We can lower the cortisol. We can just kind of, let go a little bit. And sometimes people release weight, when they relax and let go of their strict diet plans. So that might work for some people to their benefit. Cons, I think a lot of people are not going to be that lucky. A lot of people will probably gain some weight with this approach. Some of it is going to be water weight that's going to fall right back off as soon as you go back to your regular eating plan, and it'll go away in days. Some of us, like me, I could easily gain 20 pounds between Thanksgiving and New Year's, the way that I used to always eat before the GLP-1. And yeah, maybe a couple of pounds of it was water, but the rest of it was just like real actual weight. So, know who you are. I mean, you probably have had experience in prior seasons past where you know how much weight you tend to gain, and is that an amount that you're willing to gain? Is that something that you're comfortable with? And again, maybe you won't gain as much if you're on a GLP-1, but just know that that certainly is possible. And you might just have to step on that scale on January 1 and say, okay, I have 7 pounds. I have 7 pounds of weight that I'm going to have to lose again. Now, if the GLP-1 is not controlling your appetite as well, or you don't happen to be on one at the moment, it is possible to overeat and feel physically sick. So that would be a con of just kind of like cutting loose and letting go. You might have an increase in GI symptoms. Even if you are on a GLP-1 and you overeat or you eat things full of sugar or fat that you don't normally eat, you might have nausea, diarrhea, vomiting, stuff like that. So, if you tend to have symptoms on your GLP-1, and if you just eat whatever you want, just know there might be gastrointestinal kind of side effects that you have to be aware of. And for some people, I think that it could lead to a spiral. I know that for me, a lot of times it was a free fall between Thanksgiving and New Year's where, I had no intention of that, but it was just like when I indulged at Thanksgiving, it kind of seemed to set off this vicious cycle where I had a much harder time saying no to things that I might have been able to say no to before Thanksgiving, but the act of sort of giving in to some of my cravings made it harder to say no, in the future. And for a lot of us, there's a lot going on between Thanksgiving and New Year's. There's a lot of office parties or family gatherings or religious celebrations and all kinds of stuff that happens. And, it's not exactly like it's one meal for Thanksgiving or one meal for Christmas or a special meal with your family at Hanukkah. I mean, there's lots of stuff that's going on, throughout the season. And sometimes once you kind of get that ball rolling, it's like an avalanche. It starts as a little snowball and it ends up as an avalanche. Not everybody is going to be like that. And maybe the GLP-1 will help mitigate that for some people. But I think that a lot of us are still very sensitive to when we indulge in something we don't normally eat, especially if it's high in sugar. It's going to raise our insulin, raise our blood sugar, and it's going to kind of set off this unstable cycle where it's much easier to have cravings. It's much harder to resist them, much more reactive sort of hunger and cravings than when you're on your normal diet. So, especially because there's so much constant and chronic temptation in this last couple of months of the year for a lot of us. It's hard to get out of that cycle sometimes. Some people are really sensitive to it. So that's pros and cons of just sort of letting it be. Just relax and enjoy and let the chips fall where they may and see where you end up on January 1. But, if that's the most important thing to you, relaxing and enjoying, I don't think you're going to regret it. I think you're going to say, okay, so that was that. I had a really fun time. I know what I'm facing on the scale January 1. I'm not going to feel bad about it, and I'm just going to pick up and move on. perfect. There's no reason to feel any guilt or shame about it at all, in spite of the fact that the world is absolutely going to judge fat people for indulging in treats. But that's not fair at all, because everybody that I know indulges in treats over the holidays, or almost everybody does, and nobody judges them for it. So they don't have any place to judge us for it. They can keep their judgment away. That's their demon to worry about. Don't let anybody else's judgment on you make you feel guilty. Let go of it. It's not yours to carry. All right, so that was one option. Another option would be to either keep trying to lose weight or to maintain the weight that you're at least. Yeah, okay, so keep losing weight or maintain the weight that you're at. Those are two options, and they'll be slightly different in terms of levels of difficulty, depending on, depending on the calories, basically, because the difference is really going to be how many calories you're eating. If you're going to stay in a calorie deficit, that's going to be more of a challenge than if you're just going to go on maintenance calories. You're going to have a little bit more wiggle room. So the pros of this approach would be that you're going to keep making progress towards your goals. You might feel proud of yourself for, not falling into old habits and old patterns, and you might feel strong, and you might learn something about yourself, that you have more willpower than you thought you did. Especially if you happen to have the help of a GLP-1, doing all the stuff physiologically that it's doing behind the scenes. It lets you be the one in charge, be the one in control. And you won't wake up on January 1st with that old feeling. How many of you, I know I did, I'll speak for myself. I know so many January 1st that I woke up feeling like, a sinking feeling, like, okay, here we go again. It's time to get back on track. It's time to get serious. I have now X number of pounds that I have to lose. I did it again. I worked so hard last year, and I kissed it all away over the holiday season, and now here we go. And I have that sort of like sinking feeling in my stomach and my heart that I've done it again, and I didn't mean to do that, and I didn't want to do that, and I acted against how I really felt like I should, and I regret it, and I'm full of regret. So if you do keep yourself on track and you're either on weight loss calories or maintenance calories, you don't necessarily have to do that. You can wake up January 1st, step on the scale, see a number that's nice, and then move on. You probably can avoid the physical discomfort of overeating, right? If you're on a calorie tracked plan and you're sticking to it, you're not going to wake up, feeling nauseated, because of overindulgence. You're not going to have some of those gastrointestinal side effects that you might otherwise have. So that's positive. I mean, it's always nice to feel good in your body instead of feeling kind of gross or crummy or overly full or whatever. So that's another pro. There are some cons, though, that even though a GLP-1 might help you by controlling some cravings and some appetite, you're probably still going to have to do the work of measuring out portions, pre-planning your meals. You're going to have to get ahead of the game. You're going to go to a party. You're going to have to talk to the host and find out what they're serving. You might have to bring a dish yourself so that you have something that you can eat. You might want to, eat before you go so that you're not hungry when you get there, if you really want to be on track and they're not going to have anything for you. You're going to have to say no to certain things. And again, like I mentioned earlier, your favorite aunt might have made something special for you and it's got 1,000,000 calories in it for a tiny piece, and you really don't want to do that because that's going to take up so many of your calories a day, and that's going to feel pretty crummy. You're going to have peer pressure. I don't know about you guys, but I mean, my family's pretty good, but I have heard of a lot of people, and I have dealt with my fair share of peer pressure from friends, coworkers, family members. Actually, my family's been pretty good about it. They know my struggles, but more distant relations, maybe, let's say, putting pressure on me. Oh, it's just one day. Oh, it's just one bite. Oh, it's just one meal. Don't worry about it. Why are you so strict? You're being too strict. You know, there's a lot of people out there who's going to put a lot of peer pressure on you, and a lot of, like, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, right? Like, if you don't eat it, they're making you feel bad for not eating it. If you do eat it, they're judging you for being fat and eating something that's fattening, right? So, you know, you're going to have that to deal with, and it might be harder to navigate if you want to say no. A lot of people are really, really pushy about it, especially on the holidays, right? And they just don't understand. They don't understand what we've lived with in our life. And so that could be really uncomfortable feeling when we get that peer pressure. And you might have regret, you know, I mean, there might be a special dish or a special meal or a special thing that you only get once a year, and it's your tradition, and, you know, maybe you could work it into your calories, but again, you'd have to eat like nothing else the rest of the day, and it just doesn't seem like it's going to be worth it to you. But, you know, somewhere deep down, you might regret that you didn't get to take part in that tradition. And so, you know, that would be maybe another con of that option. So how about a middle ground? Is there somewhere in between that we can decide maybe is more right for us? Where you can pick and choose, okay? So you can say, okay, look, I don't care about turkey. I don't care about stuffing. I don't really care about Thanksgiving at all. It's not my favorite holiday. You know, I'll have some turkey and some green beans, and I don't even care about the rest. But when it comes to, you know, this other big dinner that I have with my family, and we have our favorite special prime rib, or we have this really super expensive ham or fish, or you know, whatever that's very indulgent, you know, and that one is like the centerpiece to your holiday, where it's not going to be the holiday unless you have that dish or that meal or whatever, you know. So maybe you can pick and choose, and you can say, okay, for this day or for this party or for this celebration, I'm fine with just sticking to it and weighing and measuring, or at least eyeballing portions, or kind of keeping track of my portions in my head. But I absolutely am going to eat Aunt Betty's pie. Apple pie is my favorite. It's my favorite, and then I only eat it once a year. So I'm going to have a big old piece of that pie, and I'm not going to feel any regret or remorse about it. But maybe, you know, maybe I don't need to have X, Y, or Z, or maybe, you know, the store-bought goodies that somebody brought into the office that are kind of half stale, and they're, you know, they're not homemade and they're not really good. Well, maybe that's not worth having, you know, but the homemade apple pie from your aunt, you know, that might be worth having. So you can kind of stay mindful of what it is that you really, really want to have, and indulge in that, and hold back on the things that really don't really mean that much to you. Pretty much any food can be worked into a weight loss plan if you plan around it. There are some that are harder, because like I said, there are some things that are just like a lot of calories. And if you're on a pretty low calorie level, some of them are hard to work in, because then you feel like you can't eat for the rest of the day, which I don't recommend doing. But what you could potentially do is plan some days where you're going to be more at a maintenance level, and some days where you'll be at a weight loss level. And then in the end, you know, it might even out where you get to be, you know, if maybe you didn't lose weight, but you didn't gain any weight either. So, you know, you decide, do you want to be in weight loss mode, or do you want to be in weight maintenance mode? Maintenance is going to be easier, for sure, to navigate, but you know, like I said, I mean, you can do some days one way and some days the other way, and you might balance out to the point where you could lose a little bit or not gain anything at least. There are ways that you could counterbalance indulgent meals. So, you know, we don't have to just sit around after the meal. I know that's kind of what happened for my family after Thanksgiving. Everybody just kind of, you know, we're full and we just sit on the couch and maybe we watch the game or whatever's on TV. But you can find some ways, some gentle ways. Now, I'm not saying go bring your dumbbells and lug them halfway across the country so that you can get your workouts in. But, you know, maybe encourage a couple of other family members. Hey, do you want to go outside for a quick walk? Some brisk, fresh air after the meal can really help to mitigate the insulin spikes and surges. Or maybe you do it after dessert or something like that. Just quick little walks can really make a big difference in terms of how that meal is is going to affect your blood sugar and your insulin overall. I would be aware of your triggers. I know for me, alcohol is a trigger and it makes me throw up my hands and throw my goals out the window and say, hey, you know, you only live once, it's the holidays, blah, 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 blah. So like, I might have the best plan in the world, but then as soon as I've had drink number 2, you know, everything is out the window. And before I know it, I have made all the decisions I didn't want to make. So it might be useful for you to know, do you have triggers like that? And if so, can you possibly avoid them? Are you fine with 1 glass of wine and you can still stick to your guns on everything you want to do, but then once you've had glass number 2, everything goes out the window? Well, try to stick to 1 glass of wine then and see, you know, if you feel better about the whole thing. And again, let go of the self-judgment, okay? Follow your heart. There is no right or wrong, no matter what the almond moms want to tell you. Eating too much over the holidays is something that a lot of people do. Even people who don't have a weight problem overindulge over the holidays and gain some weight. Okay, most people probably do. And if that's what you want to do, let it go. Let the judgment go. Let those almond moms deal with their own issues. You don't have to worry about it. Follow your own heart. Listen to what your heart is telling you to do and follow that. And I think you're going to wake up on January 1st and feel just fine about it. You know, be realistic about what the consequences will probably be. Be realistic about what you have to do to make it work. And then just, you know, do what you want to do. I have spent my whole life with the holidays. You know, I've done everything from a strict weight loss diet over the holidays, counting every calorie, bringing my food scale with me wherever I go, eating tiny portions, foregoing everything delicious and almost white knuckling it through because I had a weight loss goal that I wanted, all the way to the other end of the spectrum where I ate everything in sight for 2 whole months between, or a month, I guess, between Thanksgiving and New Year's. And I just, you know, ate everything in sight without a thought or care. I've done it both ways. And to be honest with you, I don't think either way felt very good. I never woke up on January 1st feeling good either way. So I'm kind of thinking of trying something a little bit new this year. For me, the holidays have always been out of proportion all about the food and the drinks. At least for my whole life, it's been about the food. In the last 20 plus years, it's been about the alcohol too. And although I love spending time with my family, I love the time off of work, I love the festive spirit, you know, that's about this much of the holiday for me. That's how much that used to matter to me. The rest of it was all about the food and the drink, and that's way out of proportion. I think that's just out of proportion to maybe how I want that to feel for myself. And I've done it all the different ways. And the conclusion that I've recently come to is that either way, the food was still controlling me. Even if I was on plan and I felt in control and I was doing everything, it was all about what I couldn't eat and focusing on, you know, being perfect and the perfectionism and whatever, but it was controlling me. Or I was overdoing it and I was out of control and I couldn't stop myself, but the food was still controlling me. And it wasn't me living my life the way that I wanted to. It was still all about the food, and it wasn't food freedom either way, and neither way felt good. So I have a challenge for myself this year. I want to see if I can kind of separate food from the holiday. And I started this year with my birthday. My birthday's in July, and I went to the beach with my daughter, and I decided in advance that I wasn't going to go off of my plan. I had recently started carnivore and I had not been drinking any alcohol. And in years past, it was all, like I said, it was all about the food and all about the alcohol. It would have been the most fun and important thing that I was looking forward to on my birthday. And I would have tried to make it last all weekend, or a 3-day weekend, or as long as I could. And I decided in advance this year that I don't want to live that way anymore. I want to learn how to enjoy my life without the food and the alcohol taking up such a disproportionate amount of the pleasure that I'm looking for, the joy, the fun. It's just been disproportionate for me for my whole life. And now I kind of want to do a 180 shift, which may not be a perfect balance either. And this may not be something that's going to last for years and years and years, but I'm challenging myself this year to kind of put food to the sidelines and say, yes, of course, I enjoy eating food. I'm going to eat foods that I enjoy, but I'm going to eat foods that fall within my plan. My plan right now is maintenance. So I'm going to be working on body recomp and maintenance. And I really don't have any interest in indulging in the old me and the old habits of drinking a lot and eating whatever I want, and letting that be the focus of my attention, letting that be the focus of my fun. I want to try to have my fun be the people that I'm with, the places that I am, the festive feelings of the season, the giving, the just getting joy out of those things, and food be totally on the sidelines for now. So again, that may not be something that I do for the rest of my life. Like maybe by next year, I will find a different balance where, I feel like my body might be resilient enough to handle it if I'm, eating 80% on plan or whatever my plan is at that time, and maybe 20% indulging in other things. I may be able to find that I can have a certain number of alcohol or a certain amount of sugar or a certain amount of gluten that doesn't really bother me, and it doesn't throw me off course, and my body is resilient to it without any major effects. And, that would be great. I kind of look forward to that for next year. I feel like I'm in a delicate healing state right now. I don't want to put any chinks in the armor. I feel like I'm building a coat of armor for myself. I'm making my cells and my body as healthy as they've ever been. And even though one day or a week or, even a month of eating isn't going to destroy everything that I have accomplished this year, I just have no patience for backtracking. I'm not in the mood to backtrack. Nothing food-wise is important enough to me right now to make me want to backtrack in any way. So I'm looking forward. I have goals, and for me, it's almost just a challenge to myself. Can I enjoy myself? Can I enjoy the season? Can I find the joy in the things that aren't food or alcohol related? I want to see if I can. So that's what I'm going to work on, and that's my personal plan for the holidays, and we will see. Obviously, I'm going to wake up on January 1st, just like everybody else, and maybe I will have some insights to share about what it was like for me. And certainly if I'm having struggles along the way, I will share that with you here on the channel. So if anybody got anything useful out of that, I hope that what it is number one, let go of the guilt. Who cares what anybody else says? The season from now to the end of the year is filled with all kinds of things. What is important to you? Do what's right in your heart. Follow your heart, and I think that you're going to be just fine. Just go in with eyes wide open and enjoy.